when you got that letter in the mail from the Library of Congress? Was that like a freak out moment for you?
It's so weird. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an official book that is in the Library of Congress. What does that mean? Like,
right?
That's awesome. So,
when I got that letter for Little Lion, I was like, yes. I didn't know I wanted this, but this is everything I've ever wanted.
I know. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Honestly Rebecca. I am so excited to be welcoming my friend and author Mary Spencer Veazey on to this episode for another honest conversation. She is an old friend from childhood, but we went our separate ways when my family moved it when I was 10 years old. We reconnected online, and now I'm so excited to be talking with her again, and we're going to be discussing her brand new book, Cul-de-sac Crossroads. The tagline for this is so great. It says, navigating life's twists and turns in your 20s with courageous clarity. And that is just what Mary Spencer lives out in her own life. This book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, from Books A Million, and you can even ask your own local book retailers to order it for you. This is such a good book. I highly recommend it. I'm going to put the link down in the description of this video. As you're about to see, Mary Spencer and I don't even miss a beat in this conversation. So why don't you join us, and we're going to hop right into it.
So I guess we're officially set up.
Okay,
it's
we're
so
going.
good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. I can't believe. I mean, it's been. When did you move? Was it what grade?
17 years ago. So right before, between 4th and 5th grade.
Okay.
And when 4th grade ended, we didn't know we were moving.
Right.
And my dad was like, he got a new job, and then but we hadn't closed on the house in Jacksonville yet, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he was, which this is just such a dad way to think, but he's like, well, the girls can go for 2 weeks to Tift area, and then 2 weeks in, they can move, we can all move to Jacksonville. My mom's like, no, we're not doing that. So we lived in a hotel for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh. I did not remember that.
Yeah. So we lived in the Holiday Inn. That's where we watched High School Musical 2 when it came out, was in the hotel.
Yep.
We started school in Jacksonville from the hotel. Anyway, it was wild, but
Wow, that's crazy. I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah, because my parents were in your Sunday school class. I vividly remember when they found out that y'all were moving. Yeah,
yes. Yeah, it was a big deal. But okay, so I had my mom do this.
Love it.
She dug through some old pictures.
Oh gosh.
And this was my birthday party. Back in probably, I'm guessing I was turning maybe 7 or 8, and we both are holding Samantha.
Of course.
And you're matching.
And my bangs.
Oh yes, the bangs. It was the bangs era. And you were, amazing. I think you were matching yours in like the blue with the cheerleading outfit. And my mom said when she pulled this, she's like, what's so cool is, of course, y'all loved American Girls because they came with the books. And we were reading the books.
That's so true. That is so true. Yes,
anyway, this made me so happy. Cool. I'm like, if we could go back in time and tell these girls where we are right
crazy
now.
How much has changed. Yeah.
How much has changed.
I remember that picture. Yeah.
Yeah. That was from a birthday party, an American Girl doll birthday party back in the day. So.
Oh my gosh. The best times ever. American Girl dolls forever have my heart.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Me too. Awesome. We still have ours. They're in mom and dad's closet. And
that's amazing. Me too.
Well, you talked about in the book a couple times that you always wanted to be in Nashville. Like, what was the draw there? Because I've been one time, and I love the city.
Really?
But like, what was that? Yeah, what was that draw for you?
Yeah, the first time I can remember coming to Nashville was I think it was my senior year of high school, and I came to a concert at the Ryman, which is downtown, and it used to be a church, and there was lots of revival there, and it's got this really cool story. But I went to this concert, and I was like, I love that there's always concerts going on here. I love live music. And it wasn't too big of a city. It's not like Atlanta where it's just massive and you can't get around. So I just always thought one day I want to move there. I thought I'd do music stuff, not like singing, but like music business stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, I did an internship in the music world, and I loved it. But I was like, I don't think this is actually for me. It's so cutthroat, and it just wasn't the right fit for me. But yeah, I just always wanted to be here. And then I got here and I've loved it for the most
That's
part.
awesome.
So it's been so fun. Yeah.
For the most part. I love that. Yeah. That's kind of how things work, right? For the most part.
Well, yes, for the most part.
Okay. First of all, if I had had this when I started college, it would have been like such a dream. Like it's so helpful just to be like, I was reading it for now, but then also from that perspective of like, okay, it's navigating life's twists and turns in your 20s with courageous clarity, which I love that. But it's also like, to me, what's so neat is the clarity as you're talking about that throughout the book. It's like you gain new levels of clarity. And then you, like, now in hindsight, I see some things so much clearer.
Totally.
And I know I couldn't have possibly had that clarity at the time, but even just to have a glimpse and to feel like I'm not alone in these things that I'm feeling would have been amazing. Right. So that to me is what I love with this. I'm like, I'm any young woman that's like looking for a friend. That's what it feels like is, and obviously I knew you, but reading it feels like you're talking to a friend because you're just so real and so vulnerable. Like the word I think of from start to finish when I'm reading it is you're just so generous with your stories that you could keep close to the chest. And like, I don't ever want to relive it, but like, it's not that we all go through the exact same things, but we all have the moments that are like, you know what? Maybe my ceiling didn't cave in one night, but I remember when XYZ happened and it was crazy or, you know, whatever it is. Right. And so you talk about this like couple of years or year that was like just crazy town of the living situation and you're changing jobs and like all of this different stuff. Like, what did it feel like in the midst of it and where were you at in that headspace versus afterwards? Because, you know, you talk about this courageous clarity, but a lot of times we don't get that clarity until afterwards. So like, what was that? What was that like living it?
Yeah. So it was like a year and a half, I would say, where I just had so much happen, so much loss and so much uncertainty with my job and a lot of different things. And I think my freshman year of college prepared me really well for that because I had been through kind of an uncertain season before and I had gotten through it and things were okay on the other side. So I clung to hope of like, okay, God is who he says he is. I know I'm going to get through this, but I don't see the light some days. I don't know how I'm going to get through all of this. And I didn't know how to get out of like kind of the pit that I was in. So I kept just hanging on to the hope of, okay, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to give my all. And I'm going to be an active participant in trying to change the things that I can control. And then I'm going to pray about the rest and hope that the Lord handles what I cannot handle. So it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. I don't remember a day where I was like, oh, it's all better now. My life is completely different. Like there's some things that are still the same. And there are some things that are, that are completely different. And so I think, I don't know, I just kept clinging to hope because I know God is who he says he is. And he's always working for my good, even when I couldn't see it in that dark season. So I'm really grateful to feel like I'm kind of on the other side of it, but I don't remember a day where I'm like, oh, I think today's a day I've finally, had all my problems solved.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Cause like, I mean, I've been through a few different highs and lows, but like our family walked through kind of a hard season when I was in high school. And I think somewhere in there, I thought that like one day it would just be better. Yeah. But it's really this, I mean, it is a journey. And it like that, and you don't just, you can see a little bit of light if you're going through a tunnel. And then like, that's why people say that is like, you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then one day it's not this sudden thing. It's like, oh, I like slowly went from one terrain to another and it's still not perfect, but at least it's not where I was,
Right. And nothing lasts forever. That's what I always have to remind myself. Like the really good seasons, they don't last forever. The really bad seasons, they don't last forever. So that's always a good reminder for me.
Yeah. So am I correct? Did you get your book deal while you were in the midst of all of that? Like, where did that fall? Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy because I had written a kind of a book proposal a long time ago. And I saw this publishing house was taking new authors on a Friday night and you had to submit by that Friday night. And I just kind of on a whim was like, I'm just going to submit it and see what they think, and didn't think that much about it because I was like, it's not even that well done of a proposal. Like, I'll just see. And then they emailed me back that Tuesday and they're like, we'd love for you to write a book with us. And I was like, really? Are you kidding me? So in the meantime, I'm like trying to change jobs. I'm like, so I got the book deal on a Tuesday. That Sunday, me and my boyfriend broke up that I'd been with for a while. And I thought I was going to marry him. And so it was a roller coaster of a week. I'm like going from celebrating such a like thing that I've always wanted to do to like, oh my gosh, what is happening? My whole life is completely upside down. So it was really weird to be grieving the loss of a relationship and celebrating something that I've always wanted to do. So holding those kind of together was such an interesting thing. But I think I talk about it in the book, some of like carrying grief and like joy at the same time, because, you know, both can be true at the same time. Both of these things were equally hard and exciting, but they weren't overlapping. So that was an interesting time. In my book, publisher told me when I got the book deal, he said, okay, for the next year or so while you're writing the book, don't change jobs, don't move, don't do anything crazy. And I was like, absolutely. I don't want anything else to change. You're so right. And then 2 months later, I changed jobs. 3 months later, I moved into a new apartment. Like, I changed everything. So
it made for great subject matter. Listen, it was really great. Did. I mean, that to me, you were living it. You were living what you're talking about, which I think makes it so real. Like, these things don't go away. You just maybe learn how to deal with them a little bit better. Which, again, I mean, you start the book talking about that moment in your car at school. And even, you know, what you just said of like dealing with that grief and the joy in the same moment. That's kind of the same thing, even with starting college, of like, okay, I'm mourning the loss of my childhood and all the things that I've been through, but I'm also so excited for what's to come. And like, that's even when we moved from Georgia, like that was a thing. And that was my first time really experiencing that, because I'm so excited. Our cousins were here. There's a new adventure. We're going to be in Florida. Like, how cool is that? And then at the same time, I'm grieving everything I've ever known. And every time you do those things, it's not that it gets less painful, but it starts to feel familiar. And it's like what you said, like, you know, you're going to survive it. So to me, that's what makes this book so good, is like, it feels like we're watching you grow on this journey. Yeah. And so, okay, one of my favorite lines is actually from the very beginning of the book. Let me see. I like dog-eared a bunch of stuff. So on page 4, you said, God took me low enough to get me out of my own way and where I could see nothing but him. And to me, that's like, that's it right there. Yeah. And like that, that's the gospel, honestly, is we all need him desperately. And when things are going really well, we can start to think we don't. We start to think we've got it. So, and I think it's cool too, because you, I know in your work, you work with like different types of people and you work in a ministry. And so, I mean, you live this moment and you feel like, because you said that's really where you feel like your relationship with God got real for you, even though you've known him your whole life. Like, how do you see that playing into your work, your daily life, like all of that? Yeah, I think what I didn't fully comprehend or understand for myself until my freshman year was how relational God is. It's not this transactional relationship. It's not, you've got to do this or he doesn't love you. I didn't fully understand that until I was at college. And I was like, I have nothing to give God, but I want you and I want to know you. And I think that I've seen, especially after I've graduated from college. So I was talking to a friend the other day. I've known way more people that have walked away from their faith after college than I did from high school to college, which I don't know if I expected, but I think a lot of people don't fully grasp how relational God is and how loving he is and how good he is. And at the place that I work, it's a Christian kids counseling center, and kids come in and some of them are Christians and some of them aren't. You don't have to be a Christian to come for our services. But I think something that
I try to remind myself every day is that God speaks through our actions and not just our words. Like, I don't have to share the gospel every day for someone to see Jesus through me. So I don't think I fully understood that in high school. Like, oh, me doing something kind for somebody else is actually a reflection of the gospel. How cool is that? I don't even have to use words to share the gospel. So yeah, I think that's something that I've really learned from freshman year to now is how relational he is.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about different types of relationships in the book, which is so cool to me. Like, I'm somebody that I have somebody that's like I'm really close to, and I'll have like one person at a time. I'm like, okay, this is kind of my safe person. And like, I've got these other friends, but I always joke because so Mallory and my sister and I went to the same college, and it was in town, but, and you talk about friendship losses in the book too, but I lost some friends moving from high school to college, even though we went to the same college. And like, it was just kind of, it was hard. But I always kind of, like, I went into college with friends because I tagged along with my sister.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's how what Cameron was.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, Mallory, like, can I just go with you? So I even went in knowing people because we were in town. I would go spend the night with her.
Yeah.
And so I like had a little bit, I felt like I had a little bit of a secret pass because I got to know people before I started. And then I like had these friends that were a little bit older. So it seemed like I knew what I was doing, but like, I am not the relational person at all. Mallory is. But when I'm reading this and you're talking about these different things that you did and trying different churches and like making friends in different ways, and you talk about this, like, you essentially are running an online dating system, like all this different stuff. Like, obviously you really value relationships. And I saw recently like you're starting up a book club where you are like, where do you find the courage to do that? And like, what's the fruit of that? Because I know relationships are so important, but and obviously every person's different. Not everybody's going to be that way, but we do all need each other. So like, how in the world do you do that?
I know, it's so funny because, Tipped area, the high school that I went to, I graduated with 55 kids. So it was like my whole life, I knew everybody. And if I met somebody new in town, we had some kind of connector. It wasn't like you're a complete stranger. We have no like mutual friends, So going to Auburn, I thought it was going to be so glamorous. Like, oh, I'm the new kid. I'm starting over. How fun is this? And then I got there and I was like, oh, I don't have any friends. And I don't even think I know how to make friends. Like, how do people look at all these girls that came together from Birmingham or Huntsville and they all already have friends? What am I going to do? I don't know how to do this. So I finally was like, okay, my first semester, I made some friends, but I just didn't have a clue what I was doing. And then my second semester, I was like, okay, we have just got to pick ourselves up and let's make some friends. I'm going to ask random people to lunch every single week for 16 weeks till the semester's over.
Oh my gosh.
And it may be painful. It may be fine. I may make some great friends. I may make a friend that I just wave to when I see them on the concourse, but I'm just going to do it. I've got to figure out how to make some new friends. And there definitely were lunches where it was like, okay, we don't have anything in common, and that's totally okay. And then there were lunches where I was like, we have really hit it off. And then I ended up being in a couple of their weddings, and it's been fun. Yeah. So after that kind of experiment, I was like, you know what? I love being friends with lots of different types of people. And I also love being a connector because I wish I had had somebody my freshman year of college to say, hey, Mary Spencer, I think you would be really good friends with so-and-so. Y'all have this in common. So when I moved to Nashville, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm starting over again. I don't know anybody. And I'm like, why did I do this to myself again? But here we go. So I became friends with the baristas at the coffee shops I'd go to and would go to lunch with them. I just was finally like, okay, I don't have to be scared to ask people to hang out because 99% of the time they're going to say yes. And if they say no, there's no skin on my back. Like, it's totally fine. Like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. It's totally fine. But yeah, I don't know. I just have always loved connecting people and bringing people together. I love having parties and connecting different people together. So I don't know. I think that I've just loved meeting all different types of people because, especially growing up with the same 55 kids who I
Yes.
love, it's just fun to like meet different kinds of people that are from all over the country, all over the
Yeah.
world, have all different beliefs, interests, likes, dislikes. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of where it stemmed from.
Yeah. No, that's so neat. And I think too, you saying, I mean, essentially, what do you have to lose in reaching out to
Yeah.
people? People are so starving for relationships these days. And I've also noticed, I think people are starving for like this family type connection.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
crazy. And because
Yeah.
so our whole family still lives in Jacksonville, which is
Amazing.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's funny because I feel the need to, like, literally today, I started I didn't start it. I started going to a new Bible study at church.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And Mallory is going too. So we're sitting next to each other and we're like introducing ourselves to people. And I find myself when I'm explaining that, like, we live down the road from each other and our kids are the same age and we are sitting right next to each other and all this stuff. I'm like, it's okay. It's totally healthy. Like, which is so funny. Like that I feel the need sometimes to justify the fact that I'm close to my family, but people are so starving for that these days. So I think recognizing that, yes, sometimes people will say no, but most of the time people really are dying to be in relationships. And I feel like especially in a post-COVID world where we were all so separated and then it's like, you don't know how people are going to react and that sort of thing. And I was in a similar boat. So after we moved from Tifton, which obviously we knew everybody in Tifton, but then we moved to Jacksonville and we went to a small private Christian school. So I graduated with 40 or 42 people. Wow, so it was a similar experience and a good little handful of us all went to the same college.
Yeah.
But I what was funny is my roommate my freshman year was a girl that I was friends with but not super close with in high school. You know, which is still closer than a lot of people are because it was just such a small class. But we became super close. And I'm like, aren't we never close in high school? But we just didn't have the same classes. And then I lost friends that I was super close with in high school. So, and you talk about that and like just friendship transitions and friendship losses and relationship losses. Like how do you gracefully let those things go? Because to me, I can tend to be a person that's like, well, cut the cord. Bye. See you later. Like, we're done. But I mean, is there a way to gracefully disconnect from somebody who it's just not working with anymore?
Yeah. I think that's something that I've been really trying to figure out in my 20s because when I was in college, if a friend did me wrong or I did them wrong, it felt like there would be these big blow-ups or be passive aggressive and we wouldn't talk about things, So then when I became, out of college, I was like, we can't do this anymore. We can talk about things like adults. Like I'm a participant in this. Like I was the queen of being passive aggressive for sure sometimes. But I don't know.
I would just feel oblivious to stuff. I'm like, is something happening?
Yes.
Try to address this. Or are you having other issues? Like, I don't even know what's happening.
Is there even a problem?
Right.
Yeah. I've had a few friendship losses, I would say, in my 20s that nothing really happened. It just felt like the friendships were becoming one-sided and I didn't want to keep carrying the weight of the friendship if they didn't want to be good friends anymore, which it's fine. Friendships kind of fluctuate and, some friends are for a season, some are for a lifetime. But I had this one friend in particular that it started to feel kind of one-sided and it hurt me so much because it was like a really good friend from college and I thought that we would be lifetime friends, not seasonal friends. And I was like, okay, I don't feel like I have to even say anything about this friendship kind of dissolving. I feel like I wish her the absolute best. I'm cheering her on in life. I want really good things for her. And also, I've got other friends that I can feed into and keep building those relationships with. And it's okay that it's kind of died out a little bit. But that's hard because you've built a friendship for so long and then all of a sudden it becomes, not the same anymore. But yeah, I think what I've tried to do in the few friendships that I've had that I feel like, oh, we've kind of disconnected is, you know what, I'm wishing them the very best. And if they reach out to me and want to get coffee, I would love that. I would love to see them, but we don't have to keep trying to like act like we're best friends anymore or that we're better friends than we are. We can just be, you know, friends that used to be really close. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I love that you talked about going on your walks and some of those things, which obviously is good health wise, but it also just kind of helps get you in that mindset. But you talked about you would always go for your walk and then you wouldn't have time for your time with God. So, but now that you kind of switch that up, what does Mary Spencer's time with God look like these days? Do you have any advice for that for somebody who's maybe like trying to work that into their routine?
Yeah, I think I've tried to stop overcomplicating it. Like I don't have to sit for an hour and just read the Bible or pray or whatever it is. And that's great. Like I would love to do that some days, but for me, it normally looks like I've been going through the Bible recap. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's this awesome plan. This woman named Terry Lee Cobble's created, and she goes through the Bible in a year, and each day you read a section of the Bible, and then there's a podcast that accompanies it
awesome.
to kind of explain things. Yeah, it's amazing. It's helped me learn so much, and I've never gotten through reading the entire Bible before, so this has been so nice. I'm kind of behind. I'm just in Ecclesiastes, but I'm learning a lot. So lately it's looked like reading that passage, whatever it is for the day. And then sometimes if I have time, I journal for a while and talk to God. And then I go for my walk and then I listen to the podcast while I'm walking like the 8-minute version of whatever she's explaining. And that's been so helpful because I'll read the Bible sometimes and I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? What is happening?
Right.
I don't understand what's happening. Like, who is this person? What is going on? Joseph, are you okay? Like, there's just so much happening. And I need somebody to kind of be like, here's what if we broke it down in today's terms, here's what's happening. And this is a big deal for this reason. And it's helped me enjoy the Bible so much more. My church in Nashville is going through the book of Judges right now.
So are we at our church. That's crazy.
Weird. Okay, Rebecca, it's so weird. I've heard a lot of people going through it. Like my church is going through it. This speaker in town that's a really amazing Christian speaker. She's doing a Bible study on it. It's kind of popping up everywhere. Just so random. But I went through Judges in the Bible recap a couple months ago. And so then when we got to it in our church, I was like, crazy enough, I'm kind of enjoying Judges. Like, I can't explain it, but it's cool to hear about it. And I feel like I can relate so much to them because they kept doing what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And then he kept coming back to redeem them and things would be good for a while. And then things would get bad again. And he just kept coming back and helping them. And I'm like, wow, God is so kind because these people are acting insane. Why are they doing this? But I'm the same way.
Oh, so my goodness.
It's been so cool to go through. But anyways, so I have really enjoyed the Bible recap. But some mornings I am running so behind. I just listen to some worship music. Or some days, I'll be honest, I miss it altogether. And I've learned there's so much grace for that.
Yes.
And I've had to learn that the hard way because I would beat myself up. But God's not counting how many days I got to check by my name for reading the Bible. So I've had to learn it's okay. Life gets crazy and we want to make time for him, but we don't have to just sit down every day and read the Bible to spend time with him. I can talk to him in my car. Yeah.
And it's funny too, you saying that of like, okay, we beat ourselves up sometimes for not doing X, Y, Z, whatever it is that our routine is. And it's like, wait a second. Is this about me or about him? Because if I'm so worried about fulfilling this checklist, like, I have found sometimes, especially just in a busy season and having kids and all this, sometimes my most intimate moments with God happen when I'm standing at the kitchen sink and we've got this window that it primarily just looks at the exterior of our neighbor's house, but I can, I can see some blue sky up there.
A little bit of nature.
So it's not like, I've got these crazy scenic views, but I can look up and see the blue sky and see some leaves from a tree and like, God, please help me. Like, well, I got a kid asking for juice. I've got the water running and there's dishes everywhere. And I'm like, I need you. Like that's
right.
And to me, I find that because I do like to read and I like to study and all of those different things, sometimes I'm like, I started to think I got it all together and I'm doing such a good job, and look at me, and I read this and this and this, and like, it's funny that, I can start to feel a little bit good about myself for being able to say, oh yeah, when I was reading in my Bible the other day, like, let me tell you about what I read.
Totally.
And the truth is, like, yeah, that's great. But most days I'm like, I have great intentions about waking up early to be the first one up to spend time with God. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. Or the kids wake up in the middle of the night, or, I mean, you just don't know. And I have also found it's so good for me to shake up my routine with God.
Agreed.
Lest I think there's something, weirdly magical about this routine that I have, or I just get cynical about it, or I get tired of it. But so you talk about your prayer life in here, which is so good. Okay, I dog-eared so many things, which I know I'm like all over the place. Okay,
no, I love it.
So you talk about this this is in the Grandmothers Who Pray chapter, which I loved that. But you actually talk about this. You said, I was taking way too much credit for how my prayers were answered, and I began to realize it wasn't about me even a little bit, which I think this is so cool. I wrote a little note in here because I saw, this is where you were talking about starting to put the Post-it notes up on your wall of your prayer requests. And I was reading this, and like within a couple of days, you posted on your stories the Post-it note on your wall of how many copies of the book sold within a week. And it was so, again, just to throw the verse on it, it was so far and away above what you had asked for or imagined. Like, you were obviously praying for big things for the book. And then, to me, I think that's so cool that to see that actually in action. It wasn't like, oh, wow, what a great idea, Mary Spencer, like whatever. It was like, oh my goodness, like this girl actually practices what she's preaching in here. And we got to tangibly see that with you, which was so cool. Like, I wrote a note in here. I'm like, I just saw this is so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, the sticky notes have helped me so much to, like, I don't know, just to see God's faithfulness, even if he doesn't answer the prayers that I like the way that I want him to. He always kind of gives an answer in some way or another. But it has helped me go, okay, God's listening to me, and he's answering the prayers that I'm praying, some so quickly and some years in the making, and some I don't know if I'll ever get a true answer on, but he's listening. And it's cool to see. I just updated my sticky note wall, how the prayers, I move all the answer prayers over to one side, and then the ones that are still kind of in the limbo stage, I live on the other side. And it's been cool to watch them stack up over the years of all the different things God's done, and like silly prayers, just things that I'm like, you didn't have to answer that, but you did. So I love that. I don't think I did not, I don't know. It took me a long time to fully appreciate prayer for what it was, because it felt like I was just talking to myself, and then I would like go off into a different world and think about my to-do list, and I couldn't focus. So that's helped me really focus my prayer life down a little bit. So,
well, and I love it too, because it also allows you to give credit where credit's due, and give God the glory for it. Like, even with the book thing, to sit there and you've prayed for this, and you were very specific in your prayers, which I think is also such a good practice. But then, you're down the line, and this is actually happening. And instead of saying, look at me, I obviously wrote a really good book, I obviously did a really good job with marketing, and so look at what I did, you were giving God that glory of saying, look what I prayed for, and look what God delivered on. Like, I just absolutely love that, which honestly is so good too, because it takes the pressure off of ourselves too. I think
totally.
And that's where a lot of stress can come from. I think when we start to realize, and this is such a big thing for in your 20s too, like you start to realize that what you said, it's not about me, not even a little bit. When you start to have that revelation, everything just becomes easier. Like, even the relationships thing, somewhere in here you're talking about, thinking, or you're worried about what people are thinking about you, or this, that, and the other. And I heard a quote one time where somebody said, I think it was a pastor said, you wouldn't care so much about what other people are thinking about you if you realized how infrequently they do think about you. I'm like, oh so man, true. Oh, that's really humbling there.
That will humble you. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah. So hang on, I had marked this. Okay. So this was something else that I thought was neat because I think it's cool to see that, you know, we're two different people in two different places with two different stories, but God is the same God. And so a lot of these things that you talk about in here, I'm like, oh, whoa, like that's exactly what, like, I feel like I learned at this different point. But this kind of goes back to the relationships thing, but you talk about mentors and that a lot, which I think is so cool. And you have done a really good job of actively seeking these out. But you talk about, you said we all have and need boards in our lives, which is really interesting that you said we all have them and we all need them. But it's like, oh, maybe I haven't consciously done this, but I do have this group of people that's speaking into my life. But then you said,
right.
You know, it's our own personal and professional board of directors, which is so cool. This is, we call it our cabinet. So
I love it.
That's like me, my mom, and my sister. That's been our thing. Like several years ago, we're like, okay, who's in your cabinet? Like we're the president or something. But but I think that's so cool because I've got.
Thanks.
So my sister is my social person. She's my director of social affairs.
Go Valerie.
Yes, and my mom is like she is my go-to like spiritual person. So, I mean, I just love my mom so much, not just because she's my mom, but she's become like my best friend. The older I get, I'm like, oh, listen, amazing. Like, hey, we actually have really compatible personalities. So like, let's just hang out, please.
That's awesome.
But then I've got like some friends from church that are a little bit further along than me with motherhood that I'm like, okay, you don't know this, but I'm assigning you to my cabinet. And then I've got somebody, exactly. And then I've got somebody at work, multiple people really at work, but and I'm not in the office, I work from home, but I see them enough that I'm like, I really like how you're doing X, Y, Z, or I like how you handled this. And I'm like, okay, you're signing you to my cabinet. So like, what are those different positions? And when you kind of had this revelation, what were the different positions that you're like, okay, I need to make sure I've got somebody good, kind of filling some of these different roles? And did you have to make adjustments to some of your relationships when you kind of had this revelation of needing these strong people in your life?
Yeah, I think in college, I had one person that I would really consider a mentor of mine, but I didn't like call her that. I didn't know that's what she was to me, but now I do. But then when I got to college, there's a lot of talk about mentors and networking in my program that I was in. And so that's kind of where I first started thinking about it. And then they assigned me a mentor in that group. And that mentor became such a spiritual figure to me, someone that I like call about anything. She's been such a great connector, helped me get a job. Like she's just so wise. And when we kind of formed a relationship, I was like, oh, since I'm in a city too, where I don't have any family here, I don't know a lot of adults that are a couple of seasons ahead of me, I need to kind of seek that out. So I had her name's Kate. She was like my first like honorary board member and she had no idea.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, I was here and my mom connected me with a friend of hers that's from Tipton that moved up here. And she became such a mentor to me too and kind of took me under her wing. And my mentor, Kate, she was kind of more like, we started as professional like friends, but then we became such personal friends. But Macy, my mom's friend, became a personal friend right away.
Yeah.
And she helped me navigate so many different things. And then I've got another one named Caroline, and she's a mom and she's incredible. And she's written a book. And so I was kind of looking for people that were doing the thing that I want to do next.
Yeah.
Like someone
I love
that's writing a book, someone that's really far along in their faith journey and loves the Lord and trusts him so much. Someone that has different beliefs than me sometimes, but I can talk with about anything, kind of wrestle with that in my faith about different topics. So I kind of looked for people that were different kind of all across the board, that were believers, but maybe had different beliefs that were secondary beliefs than me. And that I could kind of go, okay, what do I actually believe?
I love that you have surrounded yourself with people who do think differently, to allow yourself the opportunity to learn something new. Because if you just surround yourself with the things and the people that you're comfortable with, you're not going to grow, honestly. And you might not discover a part of yourself. It doesn't, again, this is, kind of like with the friendship thing or the having grief and joy at the same time. Like, just because you're learning a new part of yourself or what speaks to you doesn't mean that this other thing is bad. You can find a different church that's meeting a need that you have, and it doesn't mean the other church is bad. You can say, I think that I am actually more in alignment with this, but this served me well at this time. Or this was a part of, honestly, even just saying, this was a part of my learning and growing process as a child of God and as a human being.
Right.
Like, I love that. But to be comfortable enough to step outside that comfort zone and be courageous enough to get, that's what, again, that's, the tagline of the book, like you have to be courageous to start getting that clarity.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something that I've really seen because especially as an adult now that I'm like, okay, I'm an independent thinker.
Yeah.
I'm figuring things out for myself. I have seen a lot of division with Christians that we all believe in the Lord and we all like trust and have given our lives to him, but there's secondary things that we don't agree on. I'm like, you know what? That's not going to affect my salvation. So I don't care if you don't agree with me on that because and you and I are both going to be in heaven. And I feel good about that. So I've really learned like, okay, I love all these people and you don't have to agree with every single belief that I have. And it's been really cool to learn from all my different mentors and friends that have different beliefs. Cause I'm like, oh, I can actually understand why you would think that. I don't agree, but I do see your side of that. So, I don't know. I've loved that part of adulthood of being able to go, okay, we don't have to see eye to eye. And also I love you. And I know that you have a deep, rich faith in the Lord.
Exactly. And that's one of my life verse really is where Job says, surely I spoke of things I did not understand. Because I'm like, I'm also going to give myself the space to get a week, a year, 10 years on my deathbed and say, maybe, wasn't Einstein? I think Einstein was questioning, was saying that the theory of relativity was wrong, on his deathbed, whatever it is, that's.
You may change your mind.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know anything anyway. All I know, and that's, the Bible talks about that too.
Matter.
Yeah. The Bible literally, Paul says, I aspire to know nothing except Christ crucified. I'm like,
that's so good.
That's my prayer, especially as somebody.
That's all we need to know.
Yes, as somebody that can be cerebral and want to learn and want to study and wants to know all the things and have the answer, to let that go. Yeah. And say, all I need to know is you, Jesus. That's really
so good.
That's it at the end of the day.
Do you know your Enneagram number?
No, I don't. I was so funny because you mentioned that a couple of times. If you were to, I almost said diagnose, but I've got, I have a disease. But what do you think I am? I know my Myers-Briggs.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. People are always like, you can't tell somebody else their number. But if I had to guess, you really give me 5 vibes because 5s are they want to learn, and they don't want anything to get in their way of learning all the information that they can learn, and they're really studious and good in school. So I just kept thinking, I wonder if you're a 5, but
maybe I'll take it. I'll take it after this and I'll let you know.
Yeah. Let me know.
I don't know why I haven't done it before, but I've had people try talk about it and I just have never gotten around to doing it.
Oh,
but
I love it.
I know I'm an INTJ on the Myers-Briggs, which is apparently pretty rare for a female. I don't really know.
I don't think I know any. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, so you said in the book you're an 8. What are the details of an 8?
They're the challenger. They seek justice and they want things to be equal and fair, and they don't want people to be taken advantage of, which makes total sense that I work in the nonprofit
space. That's what I was going to say. That so lines up with what you do and who you are.
Right. Yes. So it makes total sense. But the Enneagram has really helped me go because the core thing for an 8 is that we want control, and I'm a total control freak, and I've had to go, okay, that's true. I guess I need to be a little less controlling, like the Lord's got it. So
yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
Yes.
love the Enneagram.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's okay, so one last question before we go. So this, you start the book, and this really is the launching pad for everything in the book, with this moment in the car, and it's you and God, and you're like at this low point. So if you could, I would say if you could go back to that moment, but if you found a girl today with what you know now and what you've walked through now, like, what would you say to a young woman who is at that point in her life?
Yeah. I, in that moment, was so worried and full of fear and like, what is going on? Have I made the wrong decision? And I saw this picture the other day of this person that had all these books stacked up, and on the top it had this paper and it said, all the things that I worried about that turned out to be just fine. And I think about that all the time of like, I worried myself sick freshman year of who are my friends? Who am I going to be? Who is God? And it all turned out to be just okay. There are very few things that I'm like, man, that was really bad. So I think I would tell that freshman girl that the Lord has you and is going to keep you, and everything is going to work out for your good, even if it doesn't feel like that. And just to keep clinging to hope, because there are dark moments, but there's so much light at the end of the tunnel. And God has such a plan for you and for your story, and be an active participant in what God has called you to be, wherever you are, whether it's in a college in your hometown or a place that you've never been before. There's such a plan for both sides of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said cling to hope, because there is a lot of hopelessness in the world these days, and hope is not weak. It's such a strength, and that will carry you through some of those hardest moments. So that's so good.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
And I feel like, just saying, if you feel like you're the girl sitting in the car, like, this to me is exactly what you would need. And even if you're like, oh, I'm at a high point, I feel great, I don't even know. No, like, still, this is so good. And I love that you have questions at the end for individual study or to go through it, with some friends. Again, great way to make some friends. Start yourself a Bible study and go through Cul-de-sac Crossroads together. I love that. But I'm so grateful for this. So proud of you. Like, it just, again, looking at that picture of those two little girls, I'm just so proud of you.
Well, I'm proud of you too. Look at us. I cannot believe we didn't even know what podcasts were when we were in elementary school, So it's so weird. I'm like, if we could have told ourselves that, we would have been like, what does that mean? But that sounds cool. So yeah, I'm so excited. This was so fun.
Yes. So everybody go pick up your copy. Amazon. Where all is it available? Tell us about it.
Pretty much anywhere. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Amazon. You can order it from your independent local bookstores.
Great.
Yeah, pretty much all over.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to talking more in the future. This has been so great.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rebecca.